All right, all right, all right. Hello and welcome. Welcome back to Makeover Monday Live. We are here with another Makeover Monday data set, as always. So, kick things off. We're on the Makeover Monday homepage. That is makeovermonday.vercel.app. And here for 2026, week 31, we have a data set that's looking at America's services trade balances with its free trade partners. So we've got trying to get this to zoom nice. We've got another Veroni chart, I believe. Visual Capitalist actually this time. But it was hosted on Veroni. And so I always love looking at these charts. They're so eye-catching. Can I get this to zoom out so I can see the full image? Whatever. This will work. So it looks like we've got some groupings in the original visualization by Americas, Asia, Oceania, and EMEA. They've got these really nice, like curved bars in a radial pattern. It's fun to look at. To be honest, it's a little bit tough, I think, to follow, especially when it comes to the chunk here in the middle. Um, and it doesn't even look like they're necessarily in order, or I guess they are. Jordan was throwing me off because it looks like there's nothing there. Um, so yeah, they have a thing where they're doing like positive surplus, negative deficit, and lots of good context in the original chart. So I think let's take a look at the data and let's see what fields we have. So I'll go ahead and hit download, and I will boot up Tableau. And we can dive right in. I'm thinking this week, depending on how much we have available in the data set, it might just be a map layers week. We might just mess around a little bit, take it kind of easy, and try to make something with like just a bar chart. Okay, so as I kind of expected, we do have a few grains here. We can see goods, services, and goods and services combined. Quick mental math tells me that these are probably going to check out as well, as in 34 plus negative 70 gives us negative 35.7. So that all looks good at a quick spot check. We do have a CAFTA DR countries, which I do want to look into briefly. Let's open up Safari really quick. CAFTA DR. Okay, so this is the Dominican Republic, Central America, United States Free Trade Agreement. Okay, so just a group of countries. It looks like it includes Costa Rica, the DR, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. Okay, cool. So just like it's a built-in group more or less that we have here. Sweet. So what does this look like if I said I wanted to do map layer stuff. So let's just walk through let's see how far we can get without densifying our data. Because I think that's always a good learning exercise. So I'm just going to create a calculated field. I'm going to call it 0 for now. And it's just going to be the make point of 0, 0. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to double click that field once to get a map layer. I'm going to drag it in to add a second marks layer. Then I'm just going to flip off my background maps right away. It's just something I like to start with. And then we can leave this 0 here forever. I'm just going to disable the selection, hide it. I don't know, make it a circle or something. We can ignore this. All this does is it allows us to turn off that background map. So by having 2 marks layers in the view, we're able to do that and continue to add more marks layers. So I'll leave that as is. And so first off, what if we take our country, we split it out across the columns here. Let's make this entire view. And then like right now, this value is sitting at 0, 0 for all of these. So I have a blog post out where to make bar charts, we have 4 points, and we are putting all 4 corners of the bar onto the view, making a polygon out of them, and highlighting the bars. I do think there might be an easier way to do this with the make line function. So make line lets you take 2 different make points and connect them. And I think since all of these bars are going to start at 0, 0, and then stretch to some y value and still the x value of 0, we should be able to, let me see if this works. So I'll call this, I don't know, bar. Maybe like bar make line. And I think what this will look like is, so you can see make line takes start and end. I should be able to specify make point 0, 0 as our start. And then our end is still going to be rise over run. So our first variable is going to be, I'll drag like goods in for now. And then our x value remains 0. So if I add this to the view, some weird stuff happens at first. If I change this to a bar, yes, it is working. So I can get rid of this 0, 2 now that I've added another marks layer onto the view. You can just hit remove. We've still got 2, so we're good. These bars are no longer centered because the longitude is automatically adjusting itself. So I'm just going to fix this from, say, -1 to 1. And we get something like that, which is looking pretty good. And these are currently not sorted correctly. So I'm going to add a sort to country. But before I do that, since we have goods essentially hard-coded into our bar make line right now, I think in the end we're going to want to, we're going to want to parameterize this so we can toggle between goods, services, or goods and services. So I'm going to start by creating a parameter and building that logic. And I'm going to make an extract of this data, and I'm going to save the workbook and then make an extract of the data. 2026, week 31. Make that a packaged workbook. And then we can extract. And by making it a packaged workbook first, the extract saves right into the TWBX. So it just helps stay organized a little bit. Perfect. So parameter stuff. Let's go ahead and create a parameter. We'll call it p metric. And it can be a string. And we want 3 things. We want goods, services, and goods and services. And they're all in billions, so I'm just going to keep this tidy. Let's go ahead and show this parameter. Single value list. Awesome. And then now we've got a parameter, but we've got no calculation to ingest that parameter. So we're going to make one. I'm going to call this selected metric. And this is just going to be a case statement based on our p metric. And when that value is goods, then we want to return goods. When that value is services, then we want to return services. When that value is goods and services, we want to return goods and services. End that out. And then now we can go into our bar make line. We can change this from just being goods to our selected metric and apply. And so now as we toggle these bars are going to dance and be fun. Sweet. I never made folders over here, so I'm going to take a second to do that. I'm going to make a folder called data source. I'm going to throw all of the source fields up there. I can't do latitude and longitude. And then I'm going to create one more, and I'll just call this calcs. And I might make this more folders in the future, but for now, this will be fine. Cool. I don't know about you guys, but all the lines in the view are driving me a little bit crazy. So I'm just going to take a second now, since I know we're going to have to come back to it, and tidy this up a bit. So if we go to grid lines, we can shut those off. And in fact, with grid lines, I'm actually going to go to format workbook and disable them here, because if you don't disable your grid lines through Format Workbook, you might notice that your grid lines magically appear when you upload to Tableau Public. So that's something that I have found reduces that problem. And yeah, these can mostly all stay. Maybe I'll take off axis rulers. And ticks, I'll make 0% opacity. And then maybe for our font, we can go with good old Poppins today. Sweet. So this is getting better. Now we need to take care of the zero lines. So for the columns, I don't want any zero lines. But for the rows, I think I actually do want a nice thick zero line. Something like that. I think this could look nice in the end. And maybe this is even darker. This is like a, I don't know. We'll leave it gray for now. Awesome. I am noticing right now that our latitude values are getting pretty tall. We didn't do any normalization here. So there is a concern if these values reach either all the way up to 90 or all the way down to negative 90. In this case, it doesn't look like that'll ever happen. But as a best practice, what we can do is go into our selected metric. Oops. Go into our selected metric. And actually, selected metric should be fine, but bar make line, where we have our make point, we can just divide this by, I don't know, 100 maybe. And now everything stays in between the values of 0 and 1. This number could be as large as you want it to be, but in our case, I knew we didn't have anything going all the way up to 90 or down to negative 90, so dividing by 100 keeps us in between 1 and negative 1, which is awesome. I don't know if we want to fix this or not, but I'm going to for now. We'll see if this ends up helping out. And now we've got our selected metric calculation. So we can go up to country and we can sort by field. We will specify selected metric here, make that descending. And now the sort of these countries on the top will change based on the metric that we select, which is awesome. And perfect. These bars are a little thin for my liking, so I'm going to go make this a fixed width and line it up at the center. Maybe make this like 1, which it is. I think this is fine. And I don't actually want these column dividers going down in between my bars, so I'll go to columns, column divider, and turn those off. And start to hide some of these fields. And all right, we are getting somewhere. I definitely don't want field labels. I don't think I actually need the header up here either. We can probably add our country as a label to our bar for now. And we might make a separate make point for this. I haven't quite decided. We can add our selected metric on here. And in fact, we can even format our selected metric. So as we saw before, everything is in billions. So we can go number custom, go 1 decimal place, and we can prefix this with a $sign and suffix this with a B. And we get something like that, where all these numbers automatically format for us. Make this a little bit bigger for now. CAFTA DR countries is a title. I'm going to actually alias that to just CAFTA DR, and then we'll add a footnote explaining what that is. Cool. As far as color goes, I think we might just want to make this like a binary thing. So whether or not the value is positive or negative, as we look at the essentially a surplus or a deficit, we can color based on that logic. So I'll just say surplus or deficit. And we can just do the integer function here. Well, how do I want to do this? We could do, no, we can use the sine function. That's what I'm thinking of. Um, we could take the sine function, drag in selected metric, and what sine does is it returns just the sign of the number inside. So if it's positive, you get a one. If it's negative, you get a negative one. And if it's exactly zero, then you get a zero. So we'll hit OK on that. Surplus or deficit, we want to just be a dimension. Add that to color. And here we go. We've got our 1 and our -1. I don't know what color scheme I want to use yet, but so we'll just stick with, I don't know, maybe orange and green. Orange and blue is fine. Something like this. And as we toggle through these metrics, we see these bars start to reorder. This is looking pretty clean, but we are using map layers, and map layers are a blessing and a curse because it makes me want to make things more complicated, mostly just because we can. So let's see. Let's clean up these tooltips a little bit. We have that surplus or deficit showing up in here, and I can just right-click that pill and uncheck include in tooltip. And now we've got just country and selected metric. Cool. All about the color poos, color choice. I'm guessing, Matt. But it is all about the color choice. I haven't decided on my full theme yet. We might be going dark mode, but we will see. Awesome. So I have another thought, which is maybe we can add shapes. So, like for Australia, maybe we can have like a circular flag here right below our baseline. And then once we flip signs to Jordan here, we start to have our little flags right above these bars. We should be able to. Oh, it's a Monsters Inc. reference. Shoot, I don't know what that is. Oh, you're distracting me. I want to look it up, but I'm gonna wait. Um, we can add those circles here. Let me show my rose header again. So right around like -0.1 and zero point 0.1, we can have little circles. So I'm just going to call this like flag shapes for now. And we can do that. So we want to do make point. We want our y value to be variable. So we'll leave a comma for now. And this is our x value, which will always be at 0. And now this is going to be 0.1 times our sign field, which was surplus or deficit. Nice. So what this is going to give us is either a positive 0.1 or a negative 0.1, depending on if we have a surplus or a deficit from before. We can add that on as another marks layer and make that maybe a circle for now. Oops. But right now we're getting 0.1 when things are positive and negative 0.1 when things are negative. We actually want the opposite to be true. So, oops, we can update that by just putting a negative in front of our 0.1. And now those are going to alternate for us. We can up the size of these a little bit. And when we throw this on a dashboard, I'm a little bit worried about how the spacing of this is going to look. So proactively, I'm going to just create a parameter, and I'm going to call this like flag y value. And right now we'll make it 0.1 so that we can tweak that later pretty easily. And then we go into our flag shapes, and instead of this being 0.1, we'll just put our flag y value in there. And what that allows us to do is from this parameter on the dashboard, we can just mess around with this value, and 2 is really big, fiddle around with where this circle fits so that we can get pixel perfect alignment. Perfect. And so with these flag shapes, I actually started working a little bit before the hour in Figma. I was using a plugin. Let me make this bigger. So in Figma, if you haven't used it before, I've essentially just got a page here. And inside of my frame, I can right click and go to plugins. And there is a plugin for flat icon, which is a super awesome plugin where you can search for a whole bunch of things. In this case, I searched Canada, for example. I found this flag. I'll click a different one. I hit the little plus button, and my icon just appeared. So I went through and I clicked on all of the flags from the image, and then I made. There wasn't like a CAFTA DR handshake or anything, so I went and I grabbed this like partnership handshake. I layered it on top of a circle, and then I grouped them. So I essentially created this little icon that we can use to mimic what we had in the original here. And yeah, I do kind of like that these all have little black outlines too. So I might take a moment. This has a four weighted outline. Let's see how that looks on some of these. If we go to our stroke, we make that four. The stroke is going to apply to the square, which is not what we want. So what we can do, I'm going to test this out with one and see if I like it, and then try to do them all at once. So we could hit O to create a circle, hold shift to lock the dimensions. And this is 128 by 128. So I'll make this 128 by 128. And I should be able to mask these. So if I put my perfect circle behind the, what flag do I have? Australia. Okay, so I put the perfect circle behind Australia. I'm just going to call this a circle. I can select both these objects, right click, and use as mask. And now this mask group should essentially no longer have the white trim around the Australia flag. So if I go to stroke and I up the weight, we are still getting the square piece. Okay. Interesting. Do I have them backwards? Perhaps? Or do I need to create an image out of this? Did this fix it? Nope. I thought there was a way to do this. I am not a designer though. Let's see. All right. Well, plan B. What if we put the circle in front? What if we disable the mask? I'm just hitting Control Z a bunch here. What if instead of masking, we just put the circle in front? We turn off the fill and then we put on a stroke. Boom. Easy. Easy fix. And then we need to make sure that these guys are grouped. I need to call this Australia. So we could do something like that if we wanted to get black outlines around all these. Do I want to do that for everybody? Yeah, let's do it. It looks nice. It's the little things. So I'm gonna grab this circle. I'm just going to Option, click and drag and duplicate it pretty much everywhere. Perfect. Uh, now all of these are Australia. I need to take these out of the group. So now this is Australia, which is perfect. I need to lasso these. Is that not aligned appropriately? Let's group them for Singapore, and then how has this happened? You need to be 2 pixels lower. Perfect. And I can rename the group to Singapore. This one is already taken care of. 128 by 128. Command G to group. Rename Panama. Select both of these. Control G. Change the name to Peru. Select both of these. Group. Colombia. Same thing for Mexico. And with icons like this, I will definitely give credit to Flat Icon. I don't want to pretend like I created all of these by hand. Even though I added a border, I wouldn't consider that enough to constitute these as my own. So we will be doing that later if you were concerned. This is Canada. Israel. Bahrain. Jordan. Almost done. All right, we've got our icons. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, 13, 14, 15. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Awesome. So I should be able to select all of these. They're all named appropriately, which should be really helpful in Tableau. I can select export down here in the corner. 1x size. I might actually, because they're 128 by 128, I might make these like 3x the size that they are in here. Just so we get a little bit bigger. I'll do 2x. A little bit bigger files coming out, and they will export as PNGs into my downloads folder, which is awesome. And then here I've got all of these icons. I can select all of these. We can create a new folder, and I'll just call this flags MM 2026. I stopped doing this at one point to be organized, and here I am doing it again. But if we go into my Tableau repository, and then we move this into shapes, then if we go into Tableau again, hit save really quick just to be safe. We can change this from a circle to a shape. We can add our country to our shape. And just in case I add another sheet or something, I'm going to edit the default properties for country and select shape. We will change this to reload shapes, and we will find our flags folder, assign our palette. And the nice thing is, because we named all of our shapes the same as our country names in the data set, alphabetically, they sort the exact same way. So we can just click assign palette, and they all automatically work. We don't have to tinker with that. So that is convenient. And yeah, now we've got our flag icons. So this works. What else can we add? We don't have a ton of data to enrich the viz. I kind of think this is where we might land. Okay, we do have a little bit of nuance here with Jordan, where the sign is equal to 0. So we're getting the flag to sit right on the baseline here, which I do not want. So in that case, we actually want to assign a negative value. So here's what we can do. instead of using our handy dandy sign function, um, which would work if we wanted 0 to show up as 0, but I don't. I'm just going to comment this out. And we will say if selected metric is greater than 0, then 1, else -1. So this will make sure that when it is equal to 0, we are assigning -1, which, oh, did I do that backwards? um, no, that should be right. Uh, so then Jordan is going up to the top. Oh, this needs to be this. Um, so we had to. I wasn't accounting for the fact that in bar make line. Nope, not bar make line. In flag shapes, we have a negative here, so it was throwing off my head. But nice. Okay, so we've got our flags. We've got our bars. These bars are definitely close to that baseline. Mm, okay, maybe we can play around with our colors a little bit. Let's make a dashboard and let's throw our container on. Throw another container to catch our junk. We will throw a title box. That's not how you spell title, but it's fine. We'll throw a sheet, and all of our junk gets caught over here. We'll add a footer. Make this like 35. And like 24 pixels of outer padding. Change this to like 120. Hide the title. Remove the row dividers. Okay. And we are getting somewhere. These will update as we toggle our metric. Sweet. I never updated the size of my dashboard. I'm going to go to the classic 1400 by 850. Get a nice view here. And for our title, I'm just going to emulate what we had here. America's, they did a ranking. I don't think the ranking helps that much. They used color by region, which is kind of fun. Let's play around with that. Let's make that grouping really quick and see if we like it or not. So we've got what? Singapore, South Korea are Asia. Americas, we've got Canada, CAFTA, Chile, Mexico, Colombia, Peru, Panama. CAFTA, Canada, Chile, Colombia, Mexico, Panama. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, I'm missing Peru. And then this is going to be called Americas. Oceania is just Australia. And EMEA should have 5 marks. Okay. And I'll change this to region. If we were to color by region, we would have something to this effect, which I'm not particularly fond of. We could unfix this as well. So on our rows right now, we did fix our range here. If we make this automatic though, we can start to see a little bit more activity, especially as we toggle between our options over here, which is pretty fun. We might have to make our flag Y value dynamic though, which we can do. It's not a big deal. We've got 25 minutes still. Um, the question is, do we like the regions on color? I think we do. I think it's a value add. Um, okay. Title. America's service trade balances. We have a date for this. Yeah. So I'll maybe do like a subtitle and I'll say free trade partners, US Bureau. Something like that. I will blow this way up. Maybe we'll add a description. Maybe. Well, the Trump administration is fixated on America's goods trade deficit. It runs persistent services surpluses with many key partners, including a surplus with Canada. Interesting. U.S. services surpluses may be seen as a threat by other countries, retaliatory tariffs that could derail global economic growth. The U.S. services balance with Jordan is negative 2 million. Nice. Okay, we can add that footnote too. Okay, let's start with some of this. CAFTA DR includes let me make this a little bit bigger for the people at home. Includes Costa Rica, the Dominican Republic, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. Just double checking my spelling. Nice. And then we can do like a semicolon, and then we can add this note. Balance with Jordan is negative 2. Nice. I think that should be helpful context. We'll tuck that over here. Do I want a description? I don't know if I do. I might just leave it as is. Yeah, I think we're going to need to unfortunately make this flag value dynamic, because it looks pretty good here. Looks pretty good here. With services, it does not look so good. Because the values are so small. Okay. Well, let's update it. So I'm adding a second parameter. And now I can go to my flag shapes. And let's break this out into multiple lines here. So for our first argument here, it's not just negative y value. It's a case statement. That's going to, again, be based on our metric. And we want this to be goods, services, goods, and services. And for services, we're going to have a different flag in here. And this needs an end. And that should do it. And so now we can go to our dashboard again. I need to add that parameter over to our junk. And now for services, I can tune this a little bit to maybe like 0.001, too close. 0.008, too far. 0.004 is a little too far. 0.02 seems to be pretty good. So now we can toggle some of these other ones. Do we want to do the same thing with like one more flag or one more parameter? Or do I feel that these are good enough? I think these are good enough for me. Nice. I think that's pretty slick. One more thing that might make this a little bit more appealing to interact with is if we go to our, where the heck is animations? Format, animations. We can change this from fast to maybe like slow. And now when we change our parameter, we get like a smooth, I don't know, how does medium feel? It's still pretty quick. Try slow. We get like a nice smooth animation, which can be always, a little bit fun. Nice. Sweet. So we never talked about color scheme for some of this. We're going to want to move our region and our metric into this. Let's start with that first. We need another horizontal container in here. We need to add our region. We need to add our metric. Select a metric. Make this 10. I don't think I need a title for the region colors here. Okey-doke. We can throw a blank in here. And maybe we push these pretty far to the side. Something like that. Then what is the color scheme we want to go with? Do we want to go dark mode? Yeah, let's do it. So I've got some, I might just steal from some of my own branding. So I've got a bunch of color resources. I'm just going to throw this in the other screen, but I'm going to be swatching from some of the branding. So let's do that. Let's go format our dashboard. Let's make this background black. And then suddenly we can't see anything. Well, I guess we can see some things still. On the sheet here, we can do this now. I'll change the worksheet to black. The colors change automatically. The only thing that does stink is I made those borders black on the flags. And I made this also black, which is not going to work super well. We're not going dark mode. I've changed my opinion. We will do a different color scheme because I don't have time to fiddle with all the flags again. How about pastels? These are fun. Can I not scroll in this? Ah. This works. I need to shrink the labels on this slightly. Nice. And cool. They can take the region off of tooltip. And I think I'm going to add selected metric to this tooltip. Nice. Maybe we add a black border on the bars, which we can do like this, but they're a little thin. What we could also do is we could duplicate our bar make line as another map layer. Turn this into a bar and put it behind our other one. And then when we do our fixed width, oh, look at the shadow effect. It's kind of fun. Do like now I'm fiddling around with this. It's always going to start from the left though. There's not a great way to do this, but 1.01 is too tight. No, I think this is going to look goofy. Yeah, it looks goofy. Never mind this. The shadow is kind of fun though. I do not hate this. But see, if I do like 0.5, oh, could I? 0.75? Oh, I could do small shadows. 0.6? Yeah, it looks kind of stupid though. If anyone is here and wants that idea though, that's a fun little thing you can do with bars and map layers is put a shadow casted behind them. So cool. There's an idea. I can get rid of this ignore field now because I already have 2 on here. And yeah, that should be it. These work nicely to highlight. I don't have region on flag, which is a small problem. If we add region here to detail and we don't include in the tooltip. Now, when we select these, the flag highlights as well, which is what I want. And then these will resort. The text all looks good. Awesome. I just need to add a footer. Viz by Blake Feza. Data. Need to turn off the double space creates a period thing. The data comes from Veroni, which comes from Visual Capitalist, which comes from the US Bureau of Economic Analysis. I'm going to give this to Visual Capitalist, I think. To me, that makes the most sense. Makeover Monday. Icons from Let Icon. We can make this like size 10. And I think I'll right align this since I'm right aligning the other text. Cool. Maybe I'll make this title space. It's just like a little bit light. Maybe we go to this one. Got a few minutes, so I'm tinkering. I don't mind this. Cool. I think that'll do it this week. Make this slightly bigger. Cool. Let's go ahead and get this uploaded to public. Let's save one time. And then let me clean this up down here. Nice. One more thing I want to tweak. Let me save this so I don't have to retype it. I think these flags are a little bit too big as I'm looking a little closer. Let's tune them down just a tad. Yeah, this works. Just a hair more. Nice. Awesome, awesome. And that will wrap us up for the week. So thank you for joining me. If you were here live and if you watched the recording, hopefully you learned something and found it valuable. I appreciate you guys for joining me. And yeah, see you next Friday. Goodbye.